The moment Caroline Hayes stepped into the towering glass building that pierced the gray morning sky of Chicago, she had no idea her life was about to shift in a direction she could never have imagined. The day had begun like any other. Cold wind rushing in from the lake, the usual ache in her chest reminding her of the bills she still hadn't paid, and the quiet determination that had gotten her through every hardship. But everything changed the second her boss, the elusive and almost impossibly composed CEO, Christopher Ward, walked toward her with an urgency she had never seen in his eyes. He looked like a man standing on the edge of a cliff, one step away from losing everything he had fought for. And then came the words that froze her breath, words so impossible, so unexpected, that her heart nearly stopped. "Caroline, can you pretend to be my wife if you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in stories where strangers become something more? Please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps our stories reach more hearts." Christopher didn't look like the kind of man who needed help from anyone. He was the type of CEO whose presence commanded rooms, sharp jawline, calm voice, immaculate suits that fit him like they were crafted for no one else. But now, beneath that flawless exterior, his storm gray eyes reflected fear, desperation, and a vulnerability Caroline never thought she would see. As he guided her into his corner office, she kept thinking this must be some kind of misunderstanding. She was just a junior administrative assistant, someone who fetched coffee, fixed report formatting, and stayed late because she needed the overtime pay. Why would a billionaire CEO need her to pretend to be his wife? But the truth came fast. His board was doubting his emotional stability and personal life after a scandalous rumor circulated across business networks. Rumors claiming he was irresponsible, distracted, incapable of leading the company. His family's reputation and the future of the business his late father built were now at stake. The board demanded proof that he was grounded, committed, emotionally mature. They wanted to see a stable family life, and the upcoming shareholders' gala would determine his fate. If he didn't show up with a wife, the board had the power to force him out. Caroline had always thought her problems were big. Her mother's medical bills, the apartment that barely stayed warm in winter, the debts her ex-fiancé left her with before disappearing. But compared to what Christopher was facing, she felt a strange pull, a soft ache in her chest. Maybe because she knew what it felt like to be cornered by life. Maybe because she recognized the loneliness in his voice. Or maybe because for once, someone needed her. When she agreed, it wasn't because she wanted the money he offered, though heaven knew she needed it. It wasn't even because she believed she could truly help him. It was because she saw a man who had always seemed untouchable suddenly standing before her, stripped of all his defenses. And something inside her whispered that sometimes the most unexpected decisions lead to the most meaningful chapters. Their first challenge was believability. Christopher was one of the most photographed executives in America. The world knew him as cold, distant, painfully private. So the two of them had just days to learn each other's lives well enough to appear like a real couple. Caroline spent evenings in his penthouse, flipping through old family albums, absorbing the details of his life, his favorite childhood baseball team, the scar on his knee from falling off a bike, the way he secretly preferred quiet nights at home to lavish business parties. And Christopher, in return, learned about her world. He learned about her mother's declining health, the night she was forced to sell her engagement ring to pay rent, and the quiet resilience she carried like armor. She tried to hide her tears when she talked about her mother, but somehow Christopher always noticed. He would pause, look at her with soft eyes, and offer her water, a blanket, or sometimes just silence, the comforting kind. As the gala drew closer, the pressure built. Reporters buzzed outside the building, employees whispered, and social media speculated wildly about who this mysterious wife might be. Caroline's anxiety grew like a tightening knot in her stomach. She felt like an imposter, walking in shoes 3 sizes too big, terrified she would make a mistake that would cost Christopher everything. But something miraculous started happening in those days leading up to the event. The cold, unreachable CEO began to thaw, not in dramatic gestures but in quiet, intimate moments. When she shivered in the drafty conference room, he draped his own suit jacket over her shoulders. When she fell asleep reviewing notes, he placed a pillow under her head. When her hands trembled during their practice photos, he squeezed them gently until she steadied. The fake marriage became something else, something she didn't dare name. Then the night of the gala arrived. The ballroom glowed with golden lights, crystal chandeliers casting soft halos across the marble floors. The most powerful business figures in the United States filled the room, their gazes sharp, their expectations unforgiving. Caroline wore an elegant midnight blue gown Christopher had arranged for her, the fabric hugging her figure just enough to give her confidence. But the moment she stepped inside, all that confidence evaporated. She wasn't from this world. She didn't belong among the elite. But Christopher stepped beside her, slipping his hand around her waist with ease so natural it made her heart stutter. His touch wasn't cold or calculated. It was protective, reassuring, real. He leaned close, his breath warm against her ear, and whispered that everything would be okay, that he trusted her, the knot in her stomach loosened. Throughout the night, they moved like a true couple. They laughed, shared stories, and even stole small glances at each other when they thought no one noticed. But the world noticed. Flashing cameras followed them. Reporters scribbled furiously, and shareholders watched with astonished approval. Christopher was charming in ways he never had been at previous events, and he kept drawing Caroline into conversations, praising her strengths, crediting her presence for recent successes. For a moment, she wondered if he actually meant those words, or if it was all part of the illusion. But then the turning point arrived. A well-known business rival cornered them, smirking as he implied Caroline wasn't truly Christopher's wife. The man suggested she looked too ordinary for a CEO, too soft, too quiet, too real. Caroline felt a painful twist in her chest, the sting of humiliation washing over her. Before she could speak, Christopher stepped forward, anger flaring in his eyes. His voice, normally calm or strained, rose with a protective force she had never heard before. He told the entire table that Caroline was the strongest woman he had ever met, that she carried more heart and integrity than anyone there, and that she was the only person he trusted unconditionally. He called her his compass, his anchor. The room fell silent. For a moment, Caroline forgot to breathe. The rest of the night felt like a dream. When the gala ended and they stepped outside into the crisp Chicago night, Christopher didn't let go of her hand. He looked at her with an expression that stripped away every wall he had ever built, but neither of them spoke. They didn't need to. Over the following days, the company's board released glowing statements praising his stability, leadership, and renewed connection with his team. The scandal dissolved, his reputation soared, and technically, their deal was complete. They could go back to normal, back to being strangers connected only by a contract. But nothing about them was the same anymore. Caroline tried to pull away, reminding herself this was supposed to be temporary. She packed up the personal things from the penthouse, rehearsing the words she planned to say to him, convincing herself he didn't really care about her, that everything he did was part of the performance. But as she prepared to leave for the last time, she heard hurried footsteps behind her. Christopher stood there, breathless, as if he had run through the entire building just to reach her. He didn't give a speech. He didn't use grand gestures. He simply told her the truth, that pretending to be her husband had shown him something he never knew he was missing, that she had brought warmth into a life filled with duty and expectations. He confessed that the nights they spent learning each other's stories were the first nights in years he had felt genuinely alive. And then, with a voice trembling in a way she had never imagined possible from him, he asked if she would stay. Not as his employee, not as his fake wife, but as someone he wanted, someone he chose. Before the story continues, If it has touched your heart so far, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support truly helps more people find these emotional stories. Caroline stood there, overwhelmed. She thought of her mother, of all the years she had carried burdens alone, of every moment she had told herself she didn't deserve more than the bare minimum. And then she saw the sincerity in Christopher's eyes. This wasn't a fairy tale. It wasn't a fantasy. It was two broken, lonely people finding a reason to hope again. She chose him. In the months that followed, their relationship grew not from the pretense they had built, but from the truth they finally embraced. Christopher stayed by her mother's side during treatments, helped Caroline build the stability she had always dreamed of, and learned how to live not for reputation or performance, but for love. Caroline brought warmth and softness into his world, reminding him that vulnerability was not a weakness, but a gift. They became partners in every sense, supporting each other through insecurity, celebrating victories, building a life that neither of them had imagined could be theirs. And in time, standing under the warm spring sun in a small church on the outskirts of Chicago, with only close friends and family present, Christopher asked her again, this time with no fear, no desperation, no lies, "Can you be my wife?" And this time, Caroline said yes with all her heart. Before we close the story, please comment below, do you believe that unexpected encounters can lead to true love? If this story touched your heart, please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your engagement helps us continue creating emotional stories that connect and inspire.